And welcome back, rugby fans, to Rugby411. As always, I'm your host. My name is Joshua Shibata, and this is part 2 of the 2026 Major League Rugby season number 9, which will start and kick off Saturday, March 28th. 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Interesting the way the schedule works. One game on week 1, and that's between Anthem Rugby Carolina going to the very first California Legion home game in California in, I believe it's the OC venue. We'll talk about more of that when we talk about California Legion. And that will actually be on ESPN Plus. All the games this season for Major League Rugby will be on ESPN Plus or ESPN2. Big for Major League Rugby to kind of elevate themselves to a little bit of a higher platform. So, if you saw the very first installment of our preview, you know that with the now reduced Major League Rugby teams, only 6, I'm going to be doing 2 teams per preview. Last week was your reigning 3-time MLR champions, New England Free Jacks, and then their crosstown rivals, technically Old Glory DC. This time I'm going to be focusing on 2 teams. Both of them I feel are, well, one of them has shown a lot of improvement from last season, from the prior season to last season, and then a team that could possibly be on the verge of a breakout season for the entire franchise, which of course would be great news for that franchise. The first team we're going to be talking about are the Chicago Hounds. So this is going to be year 3 for them, technically year 2 for head coach Chris Latham, who took over last season. Chicago Hounds, when they first were formed, looked on paper to be right out of the gates, Shield contenders. Unfortunately, first couple seasons did not look that way, and now all of a sudden we have a Chicago Hounds team that were literally one penalty kick away. It was the playoff game that nobody saw the finish to, unfortunately. If you can find the game, Chicago Hounds versus New England Free Jacks last season, the Chicago down by 1 point had the opportunity to make a penalty kick. The kick was up and feed was cut. So unfortunately, everyone had to scramble to social media to find out what the results were. And unfortunately, Chicago Hounds, so close, were not able to beat the New England Free Jacks by 1 point. So they were very close. There was a very possibility in a different world that we might not have the 3-time reigning defending MLR champions New England Free Jacks. Could have been Chicago Hounds. So I believe this upcoming season is going to be a huge season for them. The way I'm going to break it out is I'm going to preview players coming back. There is a huge player that is going to be leaving the Chicago Hounds, and then a bunch of new players that I feel is really going to elevate Chicago, possibly to, I feel they're going to be a shoo-in for the playoff for sure, but they have a very good chance to become MLR Shield champions. So let's talk about the players that are coming back. Some familiar faces, strong faces. Charlie Abel, very capable prop. He will be coming back for Chicago Hounds. Luke White, both Abel and Luke White, former Guillotines players. Luke White, one of the toughest men on the pitch, one of the nicest men off of it. Of course, team captain Lucas Rumble will be coming back. Very talented capped eagle scrum half Michael Baska will be back. We'll talk about this when we talk about departed players, but Michael Baska last season was more of a backup. This season possibly could be the starting scrum half for the team. Chris Helsenbach, another capped eagle, very capable fly half and fullback. He was a top point scorer for the team last season. And Mark O'Keefe, another top capped eagle, very explosive player on the team coming back. Peyton Wall, last season's MLR Rookie of the Year, coming back for year 2. Macklin Jones, 9 tries, tied for the most tries by a Chicago Hounds player with, of course, Dylan the Butcher Fawcett. And then Mason Fleisch, 8 tries to his name, came in second. And let's talk about Dylan the Butcher Fawcett. Unfortunately, just made the announcement a couple weeks ago. He is calling it a day. He is walking away from the pitch with a load of huge accolades. Nothing short of the most tries scored by anyone in Major League Rugby history with 65, as well as the most caps of any player in Major League Rugby history. He's finished with 111 caps. Hats off to you, Dylan the Butcher Fawcett. You have always been one of the top class of Major League Rugby. It is sad to see you go, and of course, this loss for the Chicago Hounds. I mean, it's a big loss, but I feel with the number of players and the very capable players that are coming in for the Chicago Hounds, they are not rebuilding, they are just reloading. So let's talk about the players that are coming in. Jake Turnbull, a very talented prop, capped Eagle, formerly of Anthem and the Seattle Seawolves. This one's a big player. Nate the Moose Den Hoyt, a former lock from the Houston SaberCats, also played with the Guiltinis once upon a time. He is a former team captain for the Houston SaberCats, so a lot of leadership skills on the pitch. Emmanuel Albert, a former Rudy Schultz Award winner. If you don't know what the Rudy Schultz Award is, that's basically the Heisman Trophy for rugby. It is an award given to the top college player. For men, there is a woman, the M.A. Sorensen Award, that's given to the women. The Rudy Schultz Award is given to the men. Emmanuel Albert won that award a couple years back, former Houston SaberCat player as well. And then the big names that are coming in for very important parts, Ruben de Haas. He is one of the top scrum halves in Major League Rugby. Spent most of his career lately in South Africa playing for the Cheetahs, and then just recently came back to Major League Rugby to play for New Orleans last year. Prior to that, he was playing for the Gilgronis, and now he is signed with the Chicago Hounds. Huge get for Chicago. Possibly will be fighting Michael Baska for that starting position. More than likely, maybe Ruben de Haas will be the starter. Michael Baska might be the backup. But hey, Michael Baska, not a bad backup to have when you have a talented player like Ruben de Haas as scrum half. Speaking of those backs for Chicago, Reese Botha, another talented South African, playing 3 years for Nola Gold, coming now to Chicago. He will be a fly half, a possible backup to Chris Hilsenbeck, and then another very talented fly half / fullback, Santiago Vidilla, a talented Argentinian. He was one of the top players for Miami. Unfortunately, that team defunct, now joining the Chicago Hounds. And then, of course, we want to throw out Brock Webster, another talented player, made his name as a Canadian Sevens player, winger, played for New England last season, now playing for the Chicago Hounds. Also, another very talented capped Eagle, Thomas Beckerman, formerly of Anthem, is a hooker, played for the Jackals as well as the Sharks. And then the reason why I bring up Thomas Beckerman, because of the loss of Dylan the Butcher Fawcett, there's going to be a couple names that you guys should be looking out for, because they are the backup hookers that are now going to be, one of these three are going to be starting as the hooker in place of Dylan the Butcher Fawcett. Dylan the Butcher Fawcett, as I mentioned before, top try scorer of all time of any Major League Rugby player. Reason why he scores so much is because of scoring from the maul position, and that was a dangerous weapon that the Chicago Hounds were very effective with and using, and that's why Dylan the Butcher Fawcett scored so many tries. So one of these three men are going to be the beneficiary of that, possibly. Thomas Beckerman is one of them. Another one, Theo Foray, he's a young South African hooker. He was basically the backup to Dylan the Butcher Fawcett last season, so he's the most comfortable and familiar with the game plan and the strategy at the hooker position. So he right now is pretty much has a leg up on Thomas Beckerman. And this man, Jackson Zabarek, who is a former Seattle and a former Houston hooker, also was drafted by RFCLA a couple years ago, a University of Santa Cruz graduate. Just recent, Jackson Zabarek, if you follow social media for Chicago Hound, just bench pressed 425 pounds, which is very impressive for anybody that's lifted weights. So one of these three men possibly could be one of the top try scorers of this coming season, because they will be filling the gap of Dylan Butcher Fawcett. So again, with Chicago, a lot of talent coming in. Losing a guy like Dylan the Butcher Fawcett is huge. But I feel, again, you got a really strong team in Chicago. I'm going to do a video where I'm going to make my way too early predictions. Honestly, I'm a little spoiler. I have Chicago going all the way to the Shield Finals. Who's going to be with them? You're going to have to wait for that video to come out just to see who I pick. Now, let's talk about the next team, a team that has been really, really struggling ever since their inception about 3 years ago. And unfortunately, they have set a Major League Rugby record of their own, but this one for the most games played without a win 2 years running. This is going to be year 3 for them, and that is, of course, Anthem Rugby Carolina. But it's a new Anthem Rugby Carolina team, a very impressive looking Rugby Carolina team. Again, if you look at the Chicago Hounds with all the weapons they're bringing in, as well as all the other players, as well as the other teams as well, I think Anthem Rugby Carolina really brought in some very, very capable studs onto their team. So I'm making I know I've done this before with Anthem Rugby Carolina, but I'm making the way too early prediction that one, for sure they're going to get their very first win after 2 years of being winless, and two, I really feel they have a shot to make it to the playoffs. Remember, there's only 6 teams this year. 4 out of the 6 are going to make the playoffs. I really feel Anthem has a fighting chance to make that 4th seed spot. So let's talk about, we have a new head coach at Anthem Carolina, Agustin Cavalieri, who was formerly the head coach of the Argentinian Pumas, the 15 national team, was the assistant coach, and then is now the head coach. Let's talk about the players that are coming back, and there's a lot of really great young talent there. Can't go anywhere but start with Sam Gala. He has basically been the face, I feel, of Anthem since joining in last year. Former 2022 number 1 draft pickup, was drafted by the Jackals, came over to Anthem last year, has been one of the stalwarts for them. Unfortunately, has struggled a lot with injuries, but he is, when healthy, an amazing dynamic player. He is a capped eagle as well, former graduate of Cal Berkeley. And then, of course, Makin Alakan, another man who just recently got his cap, and in his debut game as a capped eagle, scored a try. He is phenomenal, a lot of talent, a lot of fun to watch. He has returned to Anthem Rugby Carolina. Alex Mahan, a very talented prop, formerly of RFCLA, also struggled with some injuries last season, but if he's healthy, a great, great veteran player to have at the prop. Eric Storty, this guy, if you've been paying attention to the USA Eagles games last season, Eric Storty has been making himself a name. A young player, was the number 1 draft pick by Anthem Rugby Carolina in 2024 in their very first year. St. Mary's College in California graduate, and again, an explosive, dynamic player, fun to watch. And then Connor Mooneyham coming back. He was the number 1 draft pick for the league back in 2020, the very first collegiate rugby draft pick for Major League Rugby, back when he's drafted in 2020 by the Dallas Jackals. Fullback, has been kind of a journeyman, but has found Anthem as her home. So with that, basically Anthem Rugby Carolina with Sam Gala, with Eric Storty, with Connor Mooneyham, and with Will Sherman, who I'll talk about later, they have the 4 out of 6 number 1 draft picks in Major League Rugby history, which is pretty impressive. So a lot of young talent, and a lot of young talent that you're going to love watching them grow together. And again, that is the whole process of Anthem Rugby Carolina, that basically be the USA team, kind of the developmental team, and trying to form that cohesiveness for players. 10 of the 32 members of the Anthem Rugby Carolina roster are capped Eagles. So again, allows, during this Major League Rugby season, all the Eagle players to kind of find that cohesiveness with a majority of them together. Moving back to returning players, Junior Nafa, who was the 2024 Rookie of the Year, explosive, talented player, plays center. And then EJ Freeman, not the first round overall first pick, but the second round first pick, 13th overall, picked up by Anthem Rugby Carolina last year in 2024. He is a center. Coming now to the team, Peyton Talea Ilao, who's a capped Eagle prop from most recently from the Legion San Diego Legion. He is also a Rudy Schultz Award winner back in 2019. So you have, again, the Rudy Schultz Award, basically the Heisman Trophy for college rugby players. So another talented collegiate player joining Anthem Rugby Carolina. And then Will Sherman, I mentioned before, the #1 overall draft pick in the 2025 draft just recently, graduate of UCLA. Again, there's a lot of young talent on Anthem Rugby Carolina, so it's going to be great to see them develop. Even better to see this guy develop, Seth Smith. If you want to talk about young talent, the guy who so far is the youngest man to ever score a try in Major League Rugby history at just 19 years of age. Seth Smith, formerly of Houston, the Little Viking. Have you seen this guy? He is swole. He is talented. I've been able to see him up close and personal in playing, and he is amazing. Can't wait till he becomes a capped Eagle himself, because he is going to be a huge boom to the USA Eagles. Another capped USA Eagle, Luke Carty, very talented fly half. Eagle, formerly of the Chicago Hounds, formerly of the Guiltinis. He's played all over. He is coming now to Anthem Rugby Carolina. Another capped Eagle. This man, a lot of people are interested in, Thomas Pittman. He was this unknown capped Eagle that never played a game of rugby in the United States until he became a capped Eagle. But he apparently has been making a lot of noise in Europe. He has heritage through America through his grandfather, and was able to become a capped Eagle last summer, and now he is making his Major League Rugby debut with Anthem Rugby Carolina. So again, when he was playing as an Eagle, definitely there's a lot of raw talent there. He made a couple mistakes, but being part of Anthem Rugby Carolina, consistently playing at this level, will really, really help Thomas Pittman develop. And then Jordan Trainer, a very, very talented player who was with Utah Warriors just recently, a New Zealand player, formerly of the Guiltinis, fullback, explosive guy, likes to kick the ball a lot and score tries, amazing. And then a guy that I was really surprised got let go by the Seattle Seawolves, Malachi Isdale. Phenomenal speed, lots of power, former USA Rugby Sevens player. He scored 3 tries, I believe, in his first 3 games with Seattle, coming off the bench. For whatever reason, just didn't gel in Seattle, and now with Anthem Rugby Carolina, he's going to have a lot of play time, I believe, and he's going to just be a powerful weapon for Anthem Rugby Carolina. And then, of course, talking about the people that are leaving, is really just one big name. Mitchie Wilson is, as mentioned in part 1 of my preview, going to join his brother Bailey Wilson with the New England Free Jacks. So obviously a talented capped Eagle, no longer with Anthem. So it is someone that they're going to miss, but man, just a lot of talent on this team. And again, it would be very, very surprising if Anthem Rugby doesn't win 1 game. Let alone, like I said, at least making the playoffs, because I really feel with the talent that they have, and again, 10 of these 32 players are capped Eagles. There's some cohesiveness amongst the starting players. So you're going to see a very, very competent team, I feel, compared to what it was last season, where it was a lot of new, younger players. Now you're seeing a lot of young, experienced players, though. Players that, yes, they're young, like Seth Smith, but he's had a couple of years under his belt already with Major League Rugby with Houston. You have a guy like Thomas Pittman, who's already had international experience this last summer. Jordan Trainer, young, talented New Zealander coming over. Malachi Isdale, he's had a lot of time already playing as a USA Sevens player joining this team. Luke Carty, again, another talented veteran. So you're having a team with a lot of more experience than they were last season. So again, it's going to be shocking if they don't win a couple games. And like I said, I really do feel they have a shot of making the playoffs as being that number 4 seed. But again, we'll go over that a little bit more in detail once I do my way too early prediction videos. But that's it for the video for part 2. Again, Chicago Hounds, Anthem Rugby Carolina. Again, when I've been doing my research on these teams, it's really got me excited about how competitive this season's going to be. We only have 6 teams, yes, but we have 6 teams with loads of talent on all 6 teams. I dare say, any game, there's going to be almost no games where there is a shutout or a lopsided victory. I feel all these games are going to be within at least 10 points. It's going to be really, really competitive season this season. And I'm super, super excited. And again, the season kicks off Saturday, March 28th, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Anthem Rugby Carolina at the California Legion, ESPN+. Again, thank you very much for checking out my videos. Next week I'll have part 3, and then the following week I will finish with my way too early predictions of where all the teams are going to finish, who's going to make the playoffs, and then a preview of the only one game that's going to happen in week 1, Anthem Rugby Carolina at the California Legion. So again, thank you very much for checking out my videos. I appreciate the support, and I'll see you on the pitch.